Okay. All right, bringing it in, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at, what time is it? 3:23. I don't have a gavel, so I'll just throw this glass on the floor. So first thing we'll do is welcome. This is an amazing turnout. Some of you guys I know by name, some of you I know by face, and some of you are new. So thank you all for coming. So we've got the agenda up here. So just the first thing, welcome. So quick introductions. Connor, is there any upcoming events you want to highlight?
Yeah, so on the 27th, we have two upcoming events. On the 27th, we want to go to the next board of directors meeting for DART, and on the 28th, we have a Dallas City Council member that some of us are planning to show up to. It's on the 20th, and it's at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday, so not a very convenient time, but you know, we can use that to just leave some public comments so all of Dallas City Council can hear from our group. Because it's inconvenient, I'm not expecting a large turnout. You can join it digitally though. So you can leave your public comment digitally, I think via Zoom or something. So my goal was to get maybe 10 people to that meeting. It'd be nice to get more though. One thing to keep in mind, you're leaving a public comment. We're not commenting on a specific agenda item, and you can only leave one public comment per month. And I only mention this is because I know a lot of you are advocating at Dallas for housing. So if you're in those circles, I mean, just be mindful. I mean, you can advocate for whatever you want.
That's different.
That's the DART. So someone asked if that counts the dartboard meetings. No, dartboard, you can speak as much as you want without restriction.
In theory, you could speak at every single board.
Yeah.
But at the dark board meeting, I don't know if it's name or not, but they had this month. But this meeting, probably was a lot.
So correct. Someone in the audience just said that, like, if you spoke at the last dartboard meeting, you'll be last to speak. And that is true. They prioritize people who did not speak at the previous meeting, at the dartboard meeting.
Oh, we don't know. We're going to get into that later.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that later.
The other announcements?
Yeah, so I think that the main thing is that we're going to start focusing more on contacting state reps. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind. We're really just going to have to keep calling them or keep emailing them until we can, get on their radar and they'll talk to us. Because at the end of the day, to get these cuts through, these cities that are pro cuts are going to be trying to get it done through the state legislature. Oh, and another thing, Addison is going to be the next city to consider a resolution to cut DART's funding. No, not to support. I think it's to cut DART's funding, right? Someone who was at the board meeting where they heard this, because I wasn't there. No, someone was, right?
Somebody, I mean, one of the board members sent me an email that said Addison may be considering it, but it was kind of generic. They didn't say when or where. They just said this is under consideration in Addison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Addison, we might want to keep our eyes peeled because they might be the next. And just to have the more cities that pass these resolutions to cut DART's funding, I think the more that bolsters their argument to the state legislature that, hey, we need to act, we need to get state action because all these cities want to cut DART's funding and the board's not considering it, whatever they're going to say. So the less cities that pass the resolution, the better.
Yeah. So all this is in our agenda later. This is just the announcement sections. We will get to this.
So yeah, I think is there any? So there was some city council members interested in meeting our group. I don't know if any attended. If there are, you want to have any remarks or any? No.
Yeah. If not, we'll pass it over to Enrique.
Yeah. Do you have any remarks, Enrique?
Yeah.
Thank you. First, I want to mention on just a comment on the idea of you guys go to speaking to council. It's a great idea. I a tip, if you'll accept it, is those of you who plan on going, connect with each other ahead of time and coordinate so that you don't all say the same thing. Maybe tackle a point, because you only get, I think, 3 minutes per person, maybe 5. But just you'll be, I think, more effective if you hit it from several different angles. So I did want to say a couple of things, and thank you for letting me speak today. First of all, you guys have been noticed, and I know you've done a lot of work to be noticed, and you have. The media has done quite a bit of coverage about you guys. We've had discussions at in fact, at the last budget meeting, as we were talking about the pros and cons of the cuts that are being considered right now. Michelle Krause brought up you guys as a group, and those of you who had showed up to speak and reminded the board, the writers are opposed to this, so you're making notes and you're being noticed. There was a board member that I spoke to during one of the breaks, and I won't say names, but I asked him if he'd seen the cascade of emails that you guys sent out to us. He said, "Well, no, I don't really read my Dart email because I have my work email. I only have some whatever." I was like, "Yeah, of course you saw them." I said, "Well, the writers are organized and they're speaking, and your mayor and your council members should pay attention to that." And he was really dismissive. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not worried about them." And I thought, should I tell him? Should I tell him? Huh? I'd rather not. But you know what? Imagine who you think would say that, and that's the person. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's for sure one of them. So yeah. So when he said that, I thought, should I tell him or should I not tell him that this really is important? I thought, just stay that way. Let's let him not think that you guys are important, and he'll be surprised later. There's that. A couple of things to talk about is the narratives that are going on right now. One of them has to do with, and I'm talking about what the board members are bringing up over and over again in terms of cutting funds. One of them is, governments are by nature inefficient, and you always have to be on them. You always have to be, chop, chop, chop. And that's a false narrative. And I'll get back to how the budget and the numbers are working out. But I mean, yeah, governments. It's true that governments tend to be inefficient, and you really have to stay on them. You get to the point where you have to say, "Why are we spending money on pink ice for the urinals?" Or just stuff that doesn't make sense. You have to check through where you're spending money. But DART is not exactly government. It's a quasi-governmental organization, and all of its employees are independent from government. They report to the mayor. So we'll come back and talk about that and the fact that it is, in fact, a very efficient agency. But that's one of the narratives that is being floated, and as they tend to be repeated, they become reality, and they also take over the conversation during the budget. Another one that keeps coming up is, well, DART is not listening to us. These cities and the mayors are asking for cuts, and we're not listening. And I'm kind of sick of hearing that. I mean, I haven't had a chance to say on the record, but the fact is, we are listening. We're just not agreeing with them. And that's the fact. Yeah, I mean, you say we need to cut. You say we need to cut the budget, and we don't think we should cut the budget, and that's really the reality. But they don't. This is really a mental case of they want what they want, and they're going to be upset until they get what they want. The budget, and this is, of course, what's going on right now. So, right now we're working off a budget that staff presented their recommendations, and in that budget, the agency grows. Well, let's talk about what growth means. The revenue to the agency, the tax money to the agency goes up by, oh God, I forget if it's 1.6 or 1.9%, something like that, which is not bad. It's not, I mean, it's not tremendous growth, not too much. But then, of course, let's call them the other side. They come back and say, "Oh, you can't talk about that's the overall growth." That includes 3 components. The budget does, as you guys probably know. One of it is operations. That's the portion that relates to running the buses, paying salaries, headquarters departments, marketing, communications, maintenance, and all that. Then there's the second component is capital projects. So that's a silver line. We're getting 100 new buses. We're getting that without money and so forth. So there's that. Hold on. And then there's a third one that's paying back our loans, and that is just set by rule. It's an interest rate, and it's classic. So go ahead. The what did?
Unrelated.
maybe let's-
Unrelated.
Okay, we'll come back to that. So these are the three components. Overall, as a whole, it's 1.9 or 1.6 increase in revenue. And so the other side is saying, well, that's not fair to look at it that way. That's a real number. But really what we can change here, what we can affect is the portion that relates to operations. You know, that's where you figure out how efficient the agency is. And that number is 5.5%. Like, well, it's too high. It's too high. Well, too high according, yeah, according to what, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like 3% better. I think 3% better. And really, what they're doing here is just like blindly saying, let's just cut. So I said, well, if you're going to look at it that way, that you want to just look at operations, let's look at operations the correct way. In that 5.5%, a good chunk of the increase in revenue is for contracts, increase in contract prices. So these are the things that we deliberately said, one or two things. Either we said, we want to have more cleaning services. We want to have more safety and officers. And so that was a deliberate decision. The second portion, some of the contracts, the providers jacked up their prices significantly. Paratransit, I think, is, you probably know, one of the biggest pieces of that. So if you really want to look at whether we're efficient or not, let's move those numbers out. And then what does the increase in revenue to the operation look like then? It's 0.2%. And so I brought that up at the last meeting, and they don't listen to that. So you've heard, I'm sure, and you've read that what they would like to do is to cap our revenue at 3% growth from last year, and that's compared to the 5.5%. To do that, city staff came back with a report and said, we can do that. We have to cut services. We have to take down, we cannot increase the number of officers that we said we would do. We cannot increase the cleaning service. Basically, the things that we agreed to do in our strategic plan, also the things that the cities have been asking for, we're going to have to take them out because you want to cut it down arbitrarily, right? 3%, completely arbitrarily. So that's where we're at right now. At this point, staff has already sent out to the cities their recommended budget with a cover letter that says, and so that budget includes the 1.9 and 5.5% increase. The cover letter says something like, and I've seen the letter, but it'll say something like, but even though this is the budget, we are still considering other options of bringing this down to 3%, or they even said 0%, but I think we've all agreed that 0% increase is a no-go. So we'll see what happens next. I think what's likely to happen, well, first of all, I and several of the board members support staff's recommendation as presented, because that recommendation already takes a good deal of cutbacks from the agency. They tasked every department to cut down their budget by 1.6%. They, in addition to that, found, I think it was like $19.6 million in savings. So it's a really, really well put together budget. And I think the danger in pushing for the sake of pushing and arbitrarily trying to bring it down is that staff would ever do this, but I hate to incentivize a behavior where next year they're just going to inflate what they're asked because they know we're going to try to bring them down. You know, and I'd rather just work with facts and have good numbers. So it is likely that there are a couple of items that they will ask to bring down where staff said they could live with. One of them is to simplify this, we're overfunding our pension. We don't need to fund it as much as we need to. We're still going to be okay. So they may ask to take some of that back. And there are a couple other small items that could go down. We'll see what happens.
Thank you. So, well, I just wanted to ask a question because, DART's tier 1 and tier 2 bus plans, I was disappointed that it doesn't seem like the budget's making any progress towards that. Like, I was looking forward to see, okay, next year, what new buses are going to get a frequency boost? And they just haven't talked about any. So do you know if that's something because I just want to see more progress. Like the way it's talked about, it's like, oh, we're just going to keep making incremental progress until we have this tier 2 bus network, which is going to be very frequent buses, new bus routes and all this. So do you know if that's even on the table or is that not possible?
So yeah, that is definitely in the works. And by the way, staff has said that is not in the near future going to increase our budget or increase our costs. They're just moving things around to do that. There's a document that I can probably get for you. I need to go back and request it, but there's a schedule for how this is going to work and when things will be released, but it's not short term. Yeah, it's like I think they have something for the next 3 years plan. So I'll get that document for you guys. Sure. And let me just a couple of things as I leave. I guess and if there are other questions, I'll take them for sure. But I do have a couple of asks. One of them is, I think you're already on it, but something to look for into the future is this whole state legislative agendas. I'm meeting with Councilman Chad West about the legislative agenda for the city of Dallas, which is coming up. I mean, we need to make sure not only that the council understands that we won't want cuts of any kind. Cuts of any kind would really hurt the agency and that would hurt the region. But also, I want to be proactive about bringing up bills that have. I know one board member supports a bill that would limit terms for board members, which I think would be a really good idea. You know, some of them have been there for more than 20 years, and that's never good. I also think, personally, I mentioned it last time, I think it should be illegal for the DART board to pass any resolutions which materially affect DART. So it's just common sense, right? That's one thing. The other one, I spoke to Jamie Molina. If you guys know her, she's community outreach. I told her I was going to be here today. I said, is there anything you wanted to talk about? And I'm essentially the same things. You guys are doing a great job. Continue to reach out. And one specific was, think about businesses. Think about if you can reach out to businesses, eventually they will be our. I mean, that's one component that's not in the conversation right now. It's very important. You know, hospitals, employers, and so on that rely. Yes, exactly. So think about strategically if you can begin to build those relationships and bring them into the fold. That'd be great. And I'm sure our staff is going to be doing the same thing. I think it's a good idea. I think it's healthy for any organization it forces you to develop leadership and to move on and stay fresh. When somebody's been in that role for too long, I think it's just a good practice. Do what? Yeah, exactly. Do we have to tell me about time? Do we have time for questions? You wanna?
I think if people can't stay, if you have a burning question, remember, we're talking about a lot of the stuff in the agenda. And Enrique, will you be here the rest of the meeting or are you dipping?
I'll stay as long as you want me
Okay,
to.
fantastic. So we will have a chance to get his feedback on something, but if you are leaving soon, or if you have a burning question that you cannot wait, go ahead and ask it.
If you're gonna ask a question now, you better leave.
Yeah. Get out of
I'm
here.
the lead,
Get
ask
out
the
of here.
question.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, am I learning from? Yes. So staff is really good about that. And almost everything we do, whenever there's a decision about doing something strategic, staff is very good at saying whether it's compensation for executives, Transit 2.0, a number of things, they do check and they have contacts in other cities and
Yes.
Yes,
They do.
yes, and they have to be comparable, because San Francisco is not exactly comparable to Dallas because there's more density. So they look for something like Atlanta and so forth. But yeah, they're definitely the benefit of that.
So
A
Nadine,
couple more, can I, Peter?
So just to understand, how would the development
I'm so glad you asked that question. So you're talking about TODs, right?
oh,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, so at the moment, DART has, I think, 6 sites that it's focused to develop TODs. I think we need to have more. I think the city of Dallas needs to work harder and identifying places where strategically we can create density around transportation, if not hubs, even DART stations, but also bus stops where it makes sense to do that. So that is a big one. There was something else I want to tell you on that. Yeah. Oh, Enrique MacGregor. Oh, sure.
Just to answer your question, I don't want to take time. Brandon, I'm going to share everything. I just want place making council. I just want to, I'd be happy to talk to you. I was going to come to you all afterward, but I would love to talk about getting development community.
Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. So I'm gonna let me add one quick thing because I want you to hear that about TODs really quick. So an idea that was floated by, so a problem with TODs is that, as you know really well, developers are not very eager to get into them because rezoning is a real pain. It's expensive and it takes a long time. Hold on, Michael Wade at City Hall came up with an idea. He said, what if we create a zoning class just for TODs that's on the shelf, so that if somebody identifies an area and says, I want to develop this around the and transportation-oriented development is what TODs are. So it's the idea of building density around the stations. It makes a ton of sense. And he said, if we have something off the shelf, maybe it'll make it easier when a developer decides to create a TOD. People already know these are the parameters on how you do it for that area. And so on. I think I want to investigate that idea, and I want City Council to get an authorized hearing on that. I'm picking up a lot of time. I'll be here for questions. Thank you, guys,
Awesome.
and congratulations.
Okay, so the next one is Garrett from, hey there, Garrett. Yeah, if you got 2 or 3 minutes.
Hey guys, I'll be quick about this. I'm Garrett from the Dallas Bicycle Coalition, and I'm here to talk to you guys a little bit about Week Without Driving. So maybe you've heard of this, maybe you haven't. You probably have heard or possibly even felt that maybe Dallas isn't too easy to get around without a car. A few years ago, this organization called Disability Rights Washington created Week Without Driving to just help highlight the difficulty of getting around without a car for people that either can't drive or have some kind of disability that prevents them from driving, can't afford to drive, and so on. All these reasons that happen. So a couple years after that, it went national, and so now America Walks and Disability Rights Washington co-host this it's a social media campaign every year just to highlight the difficulty of getting around without a car in certain in any participating city. So the Dallas Bicycle Coalition, we are helping to host this here in Dallas, and would like to formally invite the Dallas Area Transit Alliance to be a partner in this. And I will briefly tell you what the expectations of partners are. Being listed as an official partner of the campaign with the logo, promoting Week Without Driving campaign on social media September 30th through October 6th, participating in a planning meeting with other partners in advance of Week Without Driving on August 27th, and encouraging the network to sign up on the national site, give up their car for the week, and share their experience online or in their community. So that also goes out to anyone else who would like to partner on this. I'm going to be here after the meeting. Please come talk to me. If you want to participate as an individual, you can also do that. One of my 3 posts I've ever made on Instagram is just a video of me, biking to work a few times, and just kind of the joys of that and some of the challenges of that. It's kind of supposed to be both. It's supposed to be a realistic picture of that. Just come see me after the event. I don't want to take up too much of your time today, but would love to have you participate either individually, as a group, or otherwise. So, yep.
Okay, so thanks, Garrett. So this is something we can speak about more in the discussion section. We do have a quick item for that one. But now let's move into reports and housekeeping. So what we're going to do here is kind of go through Data's activities and then some city updates from people who have volunteered to speak. Let's do 30 seconds to a minute if you can, because we got a lot of really good stuff to talk about. So Connor, we'll kick it off with your stuff.
Yeah, so I talked at the DFW Progressives meeting. So I really just got the word out about these budget cuts. A lot of people weren't aware of them, actually. And now they are. Everyone at this DFW Progressives meeting was supportive. There were some people running for different House districts who are there. So we got the word out to potential House candidates. So that went really well. Irving Democrats, I must say, did not go as well. But I think it was overall probably positive that I did it, because one, it was a learning experience. So I came in with a talk prepared, and as it turns out, someone going there, and we suspected this might happen, there's a city council member who actually voted for the resolution, who attended the meeting, and it kind of turned into a discussion with me and him, and I wasn't able to get to all my points. I do feel like I countered his arguments pretty well, but he put me on the defensive, and What I learned from that, though, and I talked to him after the meeting even more, is that at least this councilman, and this is what I've heard from others, once a councilman's voted on something, it's going to be very hard to change their minds. So that's a bit of a challenge. But one positive thing, I met a candidate for Texas House there, Cassandra Hernandez, and she's likely to win her race. And she is pro Dart. And against these cuts, she does not like them. She's very supportive of Todd and transit. So we have a potential ally there.
Connor, could I give a quick comment on what you talked about serving?
Yeah.
So as an alliance, I hope all of us, or as many of us as possible, take these opportunities to speak to your councils, have these meetings, go to your clubs, give presentations. Because I also had a chance to co-panel with the Democratic Socialist chapter in Oak Cliff. And I think as we all do these things, we'll start to learn lessons that we accumulate, because not all of us have done this kind of thing before. When you encounter a situation like that, where you have a council member who is clearly antagonistic and they're asking these questions that derail, no pun intended, your presentation, don't let them do that. Don't let a actor, especially a bad faith actor, sabotage what you came to present, because that basically takes away the message and the narrative that you came and you worked really hard to prepare, and it turns into their soapbox. And so we are on a mission, we're on a fight. So be aware that there are people who will work against us. And so be mindful of that when you have your presentation, push through it. When they say, "Can I have a question?" Say, "I have a presentation to get through. Let me get through it first, and then I'll take questions at the end."
And that's exactly what I'm going to do going forward. And I do have a meeting with Metro Crest Democrats next. I think it's in September. It's September 10th, maybe around there. So obviously, if anyone has questions, I'll tell them to wait till the end. MLK Station canvassing. This was an experiment we did, and it was a learning experience. But really, we kind of we probably should pick like a busier station to do it. One thing we thought, we were targeting a council district, and yeah, so we were targeting a particular council district. So we came prepared, like handing out email addresses for a particular councilman, who we later found out was already on our side. So oh well. But when we were there was people all over DFW at this station. It was not just residents nearby. So for future canvassing events, we need to have like email addresses or material prepared for any council district, any city council, because people take Dart all over the place and do transfers all over the place. Just because it's in a neighborhood doesn't mean you'll have people from that district. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind in the future, but it got us comfortable doing canvassing. So next time we're just gonna bring better material to hand out. Maybe, and sometimes people have dead phones or no phones at all. So we wanted to get people to sign the petition too, or like email their council member. Wasn't an option. Next time, maybe we bring like a format that lets them write a letter to their council, we deliver it, or like a petition that they can sign physically without a phone. Just way better. Because a lot of Dart writers out here do not have phones. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I got the mic already. So we put this together in response to one of the guys is on the Farmers Branch City Council commenting on Dart writers being trash. We know what he really meant besides what he says he meant. So we thought we'd be a little cheeky and go pick up some trash out there. If you guys went to the meeting, could you raise your hand, or the trash pickup? Thank you. So glad you could be there. It was a good time. There really wasn't a lot of trash. It's a very clean station. So the irony was not lost on us, but we did some good. We talked some transit. Thank you all for coming. Moving into the dartboard budget discussion, I think a lot of good wrap up has already happened. Thank you, Enrique. So that's something we're going to continue to press on. So we'll probably come out with maybe some content that can get you started on sending an email, coordinate schedules for arriving and everything like that. Just look out for some updates on the group chat and probably some of our findings from the discussion section. But if you went and spoke to the dartboard on Tuesday, thank you. Very, very, very. That effort is very much appreciated. A lot of energy here, and glad y'all could do it. So more on that to come. Now the newsletter and social media. Queek, is there any chance he could?
Yep, I'm right here. Can everyone hear me?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, could you turn it down a little bit?
Okay, might be a little loud.
No, don't worry, we'll turn you down. All right. All right. Go ahead.
So, I don't know, I can't see everyone here, but how many people got the newsletter? It was mostly people that just signed the paper form that Tyler had at the last meeting. But as of right now, if you haven't signed it, Hexel, can you go to the next slide, please? If you haven't done it, you can go to this QR code and sign up, and we'll probably be sending newsletters about once a month at this rate right now. And also with this, we can also get some demographic information regarding if you want to be a reporter. Tyler, you can explain more about being a reporter in committees as well, if you can for me.
Sure, real quick. So reporters is if you live in a DART member city, you're kind of attuned to what's going on there. So we're going to have a section in each of our general body meetings where you can give a quick update. You will see that literally in a couple minutes. And then what was the other one, Kui?
It's if they had an interest in committee. You can sign up to be in a committee as well. We have made that in the form as well. So we'll just stay here for a few seconds just for everyone to scan and register real quick if you need to. And then we'll go to the next few slides.
Okay, give it just 1 second. Yeah, we got some people still working on it.
You want to scan it.
All good?
Is it possible to go to the website also? And
Yeah,
then,
it's on their contact.
okay, so if you go to Ride with Data here. If you go to ridewithdata.org and then on the contact page, newsletter signups there is what someone mentioned.
All right, Kui, you're good to keep going.
All right. Other things. Most of this is QR codes. I'm really sorry. If you haven't joined the GroupMe yet, join the GroupMe. Discord, I know some people do use Discord, but our main contact is going to be GroupMe. And then we also have a Facebook group as well. If you want to join that, we'll stay here for a few seconds to anyone that wants to join these respective groups as well.
Well, also, it's also on the website. They can go to ridewithdata.org.
Correct.
Click contact. So if you don't want to fiddle with the QR code, I mean, you can if it's quicker, but if not, you can just go to the website.
Of course, of course. Next one's also a QR code. I'm so sorry. We have social media. We spun up some social media ever since the original formation. And I will now start with social media updates now. So I copied this from Connor. Our Facebook is growing a little slowly, a little bit less than we want, but we do kind of want to build that. Reddit, we've been posting on Reddit, either on Connor's account or on the Ride on Data Reddit account, and that has been gaining attention. People are contacting their council people as well as Dartboard, and as you could have heard, like Enrique said, people are contacting the Dartboard about that. Discord remains active. It's one of our more active, but we're trying to also make GroupMe as strong as well. We're trying to find ways that we can ping everyone. This is requiring some code and some know-how, so it's not on our immediate priority, but we are working on it. And the last one is Instagram is one of our most engaging platforms that we've seen so far. In about 2 weeks since we've launched the account, we've already gained 250 followers. And another note here is me and Connor are spread pretty thin. I work a full-time job, as does Connor, and we cannot post content all the time. So we are looking for someone to manage or also design social media content as well. Next slide. This is just a quick summary of our Twitter activation here. We gained almost 4,000 impressions since our launch of the account. And you can just see here some of our most popular posts was like the formation, announcing the general meeting, or the call to action for the Dart board meetings. Next one. This is our Instagram. As you can see here, we got 255 followers whenever I took this account. We reached around 700 accounts, which is actually pretty good. Next slide. And yeah, here's our analytics. If you just want to see, like, we are doing pretty good on our engagement here, relative to like just a fresh new account, and people are following us. I think there's one more slide, and that's just follower count. Yeah, that's just follower count. We are missing some data just because I didn't make it a professional account for about a few days, but it is pretty good data that we have so far, and I think that's it.
Kui, could I add some details? Oh, wait, do you want to mention these other slides?
Oh, yes, we also made a Threads account as well, and a Blue Sky. You might have seen that at the first slide. That's just for the people that don't want to use Twitter.
Can't blame him. I've totally transitioned into Threads full time over Twitter. I don't launch. But so some things I'll note just to add on to what Kui's report. So if you ever, whatever social media you're on, yeah, there's the QR codes in the website. Ride with Data. That's our website. That's our social media handle everywhere. So if you're like, oh, what was the the name of our groups on social media? It's Ride with Data. Very easy to remember. I think that was it. That's all I wanted to. Oh wait, the one more thing to mention is that I have it on good authority that people at Dart do check the Reddit and the Instagram. Because I run Dallas Urbanists, if you guys didn't know, and whenever I post something a Dart video or start something like that, they see it and they've commented about it to me whenever I've met with them in person. Same thing with the Reddit. One of my favorite interactions was not this last board meeting, but the board meeting prior. They came up to me once. A couple of people, staffers came up to me and said, "That was a really neat flyer that you made." I was like, "Flyer? I didn't make a flyer." It's like, aren't you 229 man?
So it's Otis who made the flyer.
Yeah. So, wait, could you stand up? Wasn't it? Didn't you make the flyer? Yeah, stand up. And so he made an awesome flyer, and he posted it on Reddit. And then is John here? Is the 229 man here today? Jonathan Hoover. Okay, so he isn't here today. But Jonathan got interviewed by WFAA, and people clearly, his flyer made a splash. So all making the point that if you guys post things on Instagram and Reddit, and you tag Dart Daily on Instagram, or just post on the Dart subreddit, people do see it, and so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's just being blasted into the ether. So that's all I want to add on top of what Kui mentioned.
Yeah, I do want to say Dart is listening on social media, so they do see us.
So make a post on the Reddit if you want, I guess, so then to see it. Or
He's lowest barrier to entry.
yeah, I guess they are monitoring it. So good to know.
Oh, is the petition update now?
That's on you.
Okay, so petition update. So if you go to the Ride with Data, that's the easiest way to find things. So I'm going to try to. And then you click petition. That's the fastest way to kind of pull up that petition again. As you can see, we've got 1,571 signatures. It's very exciting. We hit 1,000 in less than 7 days. But we also hit another milestone, which is that when we hit 1,000 signatures, obviously there's going to be some outside of DFW. But recently we hit the milestone of now we have bona fide. Let me pull up the screenshot I made earlier. Yeah, so we have actual 1,000 1,044 signatures from actual DART member cities, which is very exciting. A little bit of breakdown so we can note. I think there's a lot of things to take away from this. Obviously, Dallas has a lot, but we're currently at 741, which means that we're very close to hitting another milestone of 1,000 signatures from Dallas itself, which is also very cool. So keep telling people to sign the petition. Also, if we look at just the suburb cities, the closest one to 100 is Richardson. So right now you're at 76 signatures. So you're basically one tabling event away from having 100. Plano is at 61, Irving 57. We were having a discussion with Mary at the last board meeting, and she made an observation that one of the council members of Carrollton only won by like 57 votes. I looked it up myself as well. Like 57 was the number. And so right now, Carrollton has 33. So I think something to really keep in mind, kind of gives a motivation for collecting signatures in your neighborhoods and in your suburbs, is it doesn't take that much to build up a consensus that overpowers and overtakes the 5 or 6 people who voted in favor of cutting DART funding. And so I think a really cool metric to think about is what can we do? How many people do we need to talk to so that we can have the literal amount to flip an election in that city? Because that's a very powerful mandate. On the right side, you can see 1,044 within DART member cities, 172 across DFW outside DART. I'm going to pull up a map. Thank you, Jason, for teaching me this tool. So there's people. Let me turn this on. There you go. So if you can see this map, it's pretty exciting. At first, I was like, oh, we only want signatures from people within DFW. But it's very exciting actually to see the kind of constellation of support, seeing how far-ranging across the country people care about public transit in Dallas. So if we zoom in specifically into Dallas or into Texas, you can see we have a Texas triangle of support, people from Houston, San Antonio, Austin. If we zoom in even further, so you can see in white, like if we turn, so this is North Texas, right? The white outlines are the DART member cities. You can see Dallas, Irving, Garland, and then you can see the rail lines. So oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me. Oh, okay. Thank you. If it works. Okay. Hold on, guys. Technical challenges. Thank you for notifying me in the room. If I forget to share something on the Zoom or on the Google Meet, then let me know. Okay. Now is it sharing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't pop up. I can't. Chat, can you see the screen?
Oh, it looks like maybe not.
I can't.
Okay, perfect.
There we go. Okay. So this is really cool. So this is basically a heat map, again, just so it doesn't look so intimidating. This is North Texas. The white lines are the DART service area in cities. This is where our signatures came from. So the colors kind of are related to the 20% increments. So you can see that we have quite a lot of support from North Texas. We cover every corner of the Metroplex. If we just focus on where we have, at least in the top 75%, it's interesting to know where we have support outside the service area. So we have some in Grand Prairie down in Southwest. I think this is Mesquite right here. Far north Plano up towards Frisco. Rowlett, Murphy, Rockwall area. So Brooklyn, that must be you. Allen. We have 9 signatures from Allen. And so it is interesting to see that, just kind of get that reminder of the impact of what we're doing goes beyond, the service area. but also like this is the petitions we've collected. So I don't want us to look at this and say, oh, this is where people care more about transit. This is really more about where our group's reach and influence currently is. And so obviously we have a lot of influence right now in downtown. Like we have literally hundreds of people within just this central city. So if we were like, do we need to put a lot of effort or extra manpower on downtown? I don't think so. Props to Richardson. Like you can see clearly there's obvious influence of comments for better transit. Yeah, UTD. So good job, guys. So I think the thing to really note where we know that there's a large support for transit, but clearly there's a gap in our influence as a group, is I would point out Garland. We know there's a ton of transit supporters in Garland. Our relative influence is weak there, so I think if we send people to table out there, that would be really valuable. South Dallas, you can see the same situation. Another area, if I just focus on I want to talk about Carrollton and Farmers Branch real quick. I think if we were to pick one place where it would make a really good headline and we'd make a really big impact is if we do some tabling or canvassing at downtown Carrollton and Farmers Branch. What was interesting about Farmers Branch in particular, so Mary was the one who brought up that the election results are 57 in one race. I think it was 100 in another in Farmers Branch. What's also interesting is that someone shared this. I don't know who Appetizer is on Reddit, but they made a chart of the boardings at each of the stations. So this is actually something I wish I spent more time doing, like a comparison map of popular stations versus where our current influence is, because where our influence is low but boardings are high, I think is where we'd want to focus. And Farmers Branch in particular, so they were saying this whole thing about like, there's nothing that comes to Farmers Branch Station except trash, but it's the most popular station between downtown Carrollton and Walnut Hill. So there's quite a lot of people who go through Farmers Branch. Same thing for downtown Carrollton. And I think if we do we already did Farmers Branch. I think we did another event in downtown Carrollton in particular. I think we'd have a heavy impact. Or really any of these. I think Farmers, Carrollton, Trinity Mills, North Carrollton, they have such a high number of boardings that I think there'd be a high impact by us going there and canvassing. So that's the petition update I want to share. Oh, one last thing to share. I downloaded the board meeting from Tuesday, and I made clips of everybody's 2-minute, 3-minute talks. So I'll send those to you. So Mary, Connor, oh no, you were not there. Who else was, raise your hand if you were there on Tuesday. Yeah, Tammy. So everyone who was there, I'll send you your video so that you can upload it to the petition page. Because I think that'd be really cool to start building up that catalog. That's it for me. Go for it.
So we got this petition. What actions do we take? We have to like present that to some city council members, right? Particularly in Dallas, because that's where we've been effective, I guess. And that's also like, Richardson and Garland are solidly on our side. We know that. But Dallas, they're probably on our side, but we're not like sure yet. And I guess if we can get like more signatures in like Irving, that would be helpful too, or Carrollton. So what are you going to do with this data now that we have it?
Yeah, so one of the things is everybody who signs a petition, I'm able to follow up with on email. So one thing I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to do a big email blast to everyone, all 1,500 signers, and say, hey, show up at our next board meeting, the DART board meeting on the 28th. Is it 28th or 27th? So that means that every person who signs becomes like an automatic subscriber to the updates that we put on blast. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to update the petition page with kind of this update per city, because then the petition page becomes this kind of like e-brochure, right? So if anytime you're emailing your council person or you're looking for, oh, what's a quick reference that I can show him, writing and testimonials. That's why I'm encouraging people to upload a video to the petition page. It's something that anyone can collectively just keep adding stuff to and accumulating, and you just share. Then it's easy to tell someone if you want to know the impact and the real stories. Go to ridewithdata.org and then click petition, and you'll see everything that people are constantly accumulating. So does that answer you?
Yeah, I was also just like wondering, are you gonna show this to elected officials?
Oh yeah, I mean anyone can show this. Like you can.
Can you, like share the map with everyone too?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna put this map.
It's really powerful, especially if there's someone in a particular district.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the map. I'm gonna update the petition with all this map data, this heat map, so that they can see. Oh my gosh, there's like 100 people in Richardson or so and so. Oh, don't worry about that. It's not gonna disappear. That's just advanced features. What else can I mention? Oh, one thing I'll mention also about Farmers Branch, and I don't know if this is something I'm curious to watch out for. I think if anyone notices one of these things, then like maybe bring it up to the group because I see there's some potential there. So one of the interesting things is that we technically only got 4 signatures from Farmers Branch, but for some reason, the zip code that covers it's mostly Farmers Branch has 20 signatures. So I thought that was curious, like, how is it that there's that 752 whatever the zip code is? This Farmers Branch zip code has 20 signatures, but only 4 people are associated with Farmers Branch. So I dove into that. I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. And what I found is that if you notice this line, there's a bunch of apartments right here. So apparently these apartments have a high concentration of people who not only support transit, but are plugged into us. So I would suggest that if we were like brainstorming for places to go and like maybe door-to-door canvas or something like that, those high concentration of transit riders are a great place to look. So that was one example. If you're like, oh, I live in the Village or I live in Vickery Meadows, and this is a very high density of transit riders and transit advocates, then that's something to put on our radar as well. All right, any last thing on the petition? Go ahead, Tammy. Oh, hold on. Let me give me the mic.
Well, I was thinking I made a journal this week to tell which buses I take to be more positive with city council and what kind of businesses I use at DART, where I shop at, what I do during the week. Now I'm going to type that up and send it to every council member and DART members. So I will let you please do that also if you go shopping or something.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Our bow tie man.
Could we get a link for the petition, please?
Oh, yeah. It's ridewithdata.org and then click petition. And also, if you go to the petition page, if you scroll down, like if you're like making your own flyers or your own thing, which I encourage everyone to do. Like, I know like Tammy's been asking about flyers forever, and I think someone's working on it. But yeah,
Social media or something. They're floating around on the group me. I've made some. And if you want me to send you the Canva link, let me know.
right. So Mary made flyers. She posted on the group me. And to her point, number one, go check those out. Use those. Number two, this is a grassroots movement. No permission necessary. I mean, it's like if you want to put like maybe the data logo, then maybe talk to Curtis and Connor. But otherwise, you don't need our permission to support transit and stand against cuts. So if you want to make your own flyer and then link it to the petition, go for it. If you're looking for verbiage or wording, you can go to the petition, pull it off. Because it's one of those things that like, if you don't ask for permission, then we're not liable. It's like, if we don't like, it's like if you ask DART directly, hey, DART representative, do you mind if we, through a protest or rally, in your honor? Of course they're going to say no. But if you just do it, this is grassroots. You don't really need our permission to do a lot of things. So just I think everyone here, if you're here, you have a good heart. So, but yeah.
Cannot stop you from helping.
Yeah.
Anything else? I saw this. I don't know if you.
So I assume most of us are renters here, right? I think if we're going to get a lot of apartments to talk about DART and advocate for DART, it might be wise, you can ask your leasing office to put a flyer up for the petition, because I mean, if apartments are carrying Farmers Branch, it's pretty clear that maybe a lot of the ridership is coming from apartments where people are renting and they want to save costs by using DART. So it might be worth it to try talking to your leasing office.
I was just thinking, if you're talking about apartments in a place like Farmers Branch, if there's a heavy reliance on DART, it might be good to involve someone that's bilingual.
Let's just sit with one more because I'm sure we have more items on the agenda. Brooklyn, last one. Okay, good. All right, thank you, thank you. All right, Tyler, take it away. Let's streaming switch. Maybe that one's. Well, you were charging us, probably would have.
Yeah, I think. Anywho.
Is it green now? Okay, here, take this one and I'll try.
Okay, so now we've got some reports on DART member cities. Really, like 30 seconds, please. We've got a lot to get through. We'll start with Addison Curtis.
Hey guys, I'm Curtis. I'm in Addison. I try to pay attention to all the council agendas for general things, but also for transit. Last week, the CEO of DART, Nadine Lee, and the I believe our rep also came. Gary Slagle, thank you. Went and gave a presentation to the council talking about DART's plans. They briefly did mention the cuts and how it's not great. And the council seemed generally supportive. Some of them have ridden transit, but not in a very long time, like 20 years. But they seem moderately supportive. Like half of them were pretty supportive. Like some didn't say much, and there was one where I wouldn't say antagonistic, but he was inquisitive, and so I think he just wants to do the best thing, and I think I talked to him, Tyler talked to him, and I think we can win him over. So I know that, yeah, maybe, but I know that they said that Addison might be considering these cuts later, but we're going to keep talking to them and make sure stuff happens. They did talk about the tier 1 to bus network, but they didn't really share any details. The main thing was Addison's ridership at the transit center is up to 95% from pre-pandemic levels, so higher than average for the nation. Pretty good, and it'll probably get better with the QT. Thank you.
Do you have any relationship with economic development there? Also, just local. That's an avenue where sort of basically on business interests. Fortunately, but the reality is have a much louder voice, right? And the folks who are working at the economic development will be on, especially in Addison.
Yeah, do you know any people?
I do.
Okay,
I don't
cool.
want to overpromise any relationships, but yeah, I know.
Okay, like so, agency, are they affiliated with the city or?
So they're generally cross government.
Hmm.
They're able to tax incentives.
Got it.
But yes, they are essentially government. Especially in Addison.
Outstanding. So yeah, we'll be in touch there. Anything else, Phyllis? Like we're really got to get going.
No, the head of economic development, the director, what's his name, Emerson, Wayne Emerson. That
Yes,
might
Wayne,
be, yeah,
Well,
right, exactly. Yeah, so he's actually part of Addison.
Okay, so he would know.
Exactly,
Outstanding.
right.
Somebody take a note.
Well, it's being recorded.
Okay, cool.
AI can know that.
All right, bringing it back in. Let's go over to Carrollton for Mary.
Hi. Yesterday I went to 17 businesses on the downtown Carrollton. I live there, so it's easy for me. I had my own air conditioning to take a break in. It's generally very good reception. A lot of the small businesses really want public transit. They really want the foot traffic. And the businesses that aren't as small are still interested because that is how their employees get there, for the most part. So I made some beautiful flyers. They're on the group me, but I can send out some links to that if you want to use those. One thing I want to talk about with flyers, you can have a QR code that will pull up the email address you want people to send emails to. And you can write an email for them if you want. And that was received very well also because it's lowering the barrier of entry for people to actually do something. So the concerns I talked about with some people who were like, no, I'm not going to help you. Their concerns are homeless people on the trains and drugs on the trains. And some of that is because we do get a decent amount of homeless people walking around downtown Carrollton, and they do cause some commotion sometimes. So that's the biggest issue I ran into. But tomorrow I will be talking to the big apartment complexes around downtown Carrollton. One of them, literally their marketing is trains. So I'm going to be like, hey, do you want to maybe keep them here? So that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. I want to do some more canvassing in Carrollton on like in September. So keep an eye out for it. I can't be doing it myself all the time. So yeah, again, that's what I ran into. I'm trying to think of anything else. Okay. Yes, one more thing. There's like one guy on the Carrollton City Council that I won't mention the name of, who is really being a stick in the mud about this, and everybody else is, from what I've heard, is fairly amenable to public transit. So yeah, I think it's a great place to do some good work. Okay, thanks.
Okay, you're up next, Texel, for Dallas. Yeah. I'm doing my best.
It's recorded, so. Okay, hopefully. All right, so real quick, I'm not from D1, but I did have a conversation with Jake Ettinger, which is the policy analyst for D1. And I asked him, because naturally what we should be asking all of our council representatives, like, where do you stand on this DART funding? And some people were concerned because he had this statement of, oh, well, everything's on the table. So I asked him for clarification on that, and he said, okay, to be clear, that's what they have to say in public. It's not a reflection of DART, but more a reflection of the current situation that the city's in, which is that they have this massive multi-billion-dollar pension, and like in order to be fair to everybody who's also more likely going to get cut, they have to say, quote unquote, everything's on the table. But privately, Chad, that's the dead last thing that he wants to cut. And right now, it's not really something that he's even thinking about, trying to cut or wanting to cut. So when he said that, he really means it's the last thing he would ever want to do. But he has to be fair and say everything's on the table. So that's good. Something else on the city front is, actually, to be honest, most of my update was on the petition. So I don't think I have anything to say else.
Oh, he has a. Oh yeah. This is an important one.
Okay, hi, I am Alex. So I was at the budget town hall for District 9 for Paula Blackman. And so I had a chance to speak with her about this issue and had a pretty good conversation with her. Started out a little testy, a little bit. She seemed a little bit antagonistic, but I did, secure at least a verbal commitment from her that she would not vote for a resolution like the ones that the other cities have passed to cut to support cutting DART's sales tax allotment to 0.75 cents. So that's good. But the biggest takeaways that I had were the kind of talking points that we may need to prepare ourselves for that she was bringing up, which what she mostly was talking about was like, ridership. And she, several times talked about how, oh, I see buses in downtown with nobody on them all the time. So we all know that ridership has only been recovering since the pandemic. So we should probably just want to make sure to arm ourselves with data, no pun intended, around ridership, around usage and things like that. But we do have at least a verbal commitment from Paula to not support cutting DART. So. Which is that there is a budget town hall every night, Monday through Thursday for the next 2 weeks. So that means that, and I think every council has multiple, and a lot of them are virtual. So if you live in Dallas, like they've really done their best to kind of make themselves as available as possible. So definitely go on. I'll share this link on the group me so everyone has it. But go to this page if you live in Dallas, find your district representative. If you don't know what your council district is, then yeah, we'll help you find it, or we'll tell you. But definitely find the one that you can make it to. Go there and say what needs to be said. Yeah. I'm trying to make sure there's nothing else that I should have wrote down but didn't. Okay, so yeah, any questions about budget town halls? And also, these things are very lightly attended. Like if you go there, you're gonna be like one of like 5, 10, 12 people, maybe tops. So it's a very good opportunity to not just this, but really anything else that you feel upset about how city spends its money. These are good ones to go to.
Can we move on to strategizing for the board? And
I think we can, yeah. Unless anybody, I know John, Warren, or Daniel had something for Plano or Garland, anything big. I don't think we had a lot.
Garland came out with their budget. It mentions DART 4 times. I haven't seen anything specifically either way about it. So, yeah, that's all I got for Garland right now.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye on their budget. Okay. Okay, yeah, so.
I'm gonna share with your email.
Cool. So we can speak to it there. Okay, so here's where we're going to go into next. So normally we'd have something to the tune of exec reports and community chair reports. We're going to talk about elections for positions and kind of get that organization done later. So moving into the topic agenda, we would have had a Q&A with the city councilor if they were there, but they're not. No big deal, it happens. So we're moving into topic B, discuss strategies for public comments at DART board meeting on August 27th. So just a quick refresh for everybody. This is the next public DART board meeting. I don't care. We can do it. I mean,
So we do have 2 meetings coming up. I will say, I just want everyone to know, because board members have been advising us that like you can talk to the board, but if instead you can talk to a city council member, do that. If you have to prioritize one or another, talk to city council. Do both. But if you can only do one, or if you must prioritize one, council. Just want to make that clear. So we are going to make a presence at the board meeting. Even when you're at the board meeting, maybe while you're waiting, you can take that as an opportunity to email council members. But prioritize council over board, but we will be discussing board and council.
But there are budget town halls that coincide with our board meeting.
Yeah. Then
So-
yeah.
So I can list those numbers. Or not.
I think we'll get to it later, because
Just if your town hall's on the same night as the board meeting, go to your town hall.
yeah, go to your town hall over the board meeting if it coincides. Okay. So can you open the Google Doc? Yeah, we're gonna open Dallas City Council first, just because we are running low on time, but I think we can do. We'll get to both. Yeah, that's it. All right. So. The first, what do you think our general message should be? Just that like we oppose cuts. I think that can I have the mic? Oh yeah. So one thing I saw is that Enrique actually got this on my radar. They're voting on some like legislative priorities, and one of their legislative priorities was seek restructuring of DART funding. That was one of their legislative priorities. If you go to the meeting where they talked about this, is one of the Dallas City Council members who's actually known for being maybe less positive towards transit. She she was the one who got seek restructuring of DART sales tax funding on the legislative priorities. So I think the message that Dallas really needs to know is we do not want DART cuts, and we do not want the state to get involved in our DART funding cuts. So
I happen to know that, yes, of course, they're going through the legislative agenda. I think in terms of cutting the penny, my sense is that the city council is not going to be getting enough votes to do that. However, there's another little piece that was slid into the legislative agenda, and that is to, in the future, cap its growth. That's also a bad idea. So be aware of that one, because essentially city council should not be trying to move forward any legislation that controls DART's funding. DART's doing fine the way it is, and it's growing as we need it to in the region. And so Kara has come up with a few strategies of how to still control in the future. So just want to make you aware of that in addition to the penny, there's that capping the growth.
Well, I think one thing I'll also add is we should drive home the point that the narrative that DART ridership is going down is a lie. There's a difference between it's lower than pre-pandemic and it's going down. It's going up. Every month it goes up. Every year it goes up. But they're conflating the fact that pre-pandemic numbers are still higher than technically today. And if they grill you, if anyone gets grilled on that, remind them it's also a reflection of travel patterns, office patterns, work patterns post-pandemic. Not as many people are going into the office every day, and that's what our system was designed for. So make sure you remind them that, and you can also throw in weekend ridership is higher than pre-pandemic. More people are taking leisurely trips on DART than before. So we must, take that any opportunity you can to call people out. I'm not going to say what to do, but if you have to pull you lie when someone says that DART ridership is shrinking, that's.
We might have lost audio virtually.
Yes, we did.
oh,
Hold on. All right, now try it.
They're both green.
It's
Testing.
back.
testing.
It's back.
You have that. I'll take that. Thank you. We'll go back to you. Okay.
If the state were to cap this funding, and if DART's funding stream is coming from a penny per dollar within the member communities, where would the difference between the two money figures go, where would the money go, in other words?
Either one should be fine.
Yeah, so that has not been exactly determined at the point, at the last budget meeting when they talked about, say, if we do 3%, that additional money goes to an account.
We lost it again.
No, I think the battery on this thing might be low. Keep going.
Okay.
You hear now?
I think
know
they can.
there's another question. May I make a comment about the, this is the other narrative that has been the most singular issue that people have been using to attack DART, and that's ridership. And most of it is comments like, I saw a bus downtown empty and so forth. And you can argue that back and forth, but it's really important to keep in mind that ridership is a very singular, not minor, but it's one of many measures of the value of DART. It does not take into account what DART brings to communities in terms of value of property, development, growth, commerce, not to say reduce congestion. There are numbers that are very strong. I think 200,000 cars a day are replaced for DART keeps 200,000 cars a day off the street. So environment and so forth. So when someone gets into that ridership thing, just remember it's one of many sets of.
I always
tools
tell
that-
them, well, I see people on my bus because I do. If they're gonna cite an anecdote, I cite an anecdote back.
Okay, bring it back.
Maybe you gotta get the guys.
All right. So, any other suggestions on what we should say?
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll keep this brief because could go literally for hours, but I did sign up. I'll be happy to help out with sort of media messaging. The question has to go well beyond don't vote for this, because just to be blunt, why? Who cares? And I don't mean that flippantly. I'm saying from the perspective of the audience we're looking at, the people who are voting, and just within 30 seconds, you're talking about actual votes. So their biggest concern is getting reelected. So think about that. Loss of economic competitive, loss of federal funding, equity for the right audiences. You will turn off some folks, you will turn on other folks. Heavy hitters like AAC Arena, the teams, Trammell Crow, they're doing a big redo at Mockingbird. Increased tax revenues, both from general growth. You don't have to take these notes. I'll give them to you, and I'll be happy to help. And also, there's a linear line. There's an increase. It's actually more than linear in property value when it's at or near transit. So for all those reasons, and this was just off the top of my head, you have to think, why are they going to vote not to take away funding? Just saying not to isn't enough. So, but I'll leave it at that.
Maybe just to kind of also add on strategy wise to I guess y'all's points. One thing that, or a couple things that I think would be pretty beneficial would be, at least prior to the board meeting or to the city council, we only get, it's like I think a minute at city council to speak, and I think it's 2 minutes at the board meeting, if I remember correctly, or 3. And so especially if you are going to present, I think it's probably beneficial for us to at least take 1 or 2 of these points per person, to at least link up with a broader message. So we're not all going in saying things like, we oppose cuts, ridership is high, we oppose cuts, ridership is high, we oppose cuts, ridership is high, when there are 40 different reasons. And then just one more piece on that, which is picking, obviously opposing cuts together, but if you could possibly link it to a personal story using DART, that is something that I think at least personalizes or humanizes the connection.
Yeah. So I think maybe something that might be useful to bring up to the city council is that Dallas already has agreed to certain goals, like CCAP, the Comprehensive Environmental and Climate Action Plan, Division 0, the idea that we should have 0 traffic deaths on our streets, and I think also the Strategic Mobility Plan, which I know less about, but sounds relevant. Anyway, Dallas has already agreed to do these things, and defunding transit is going to be moving in the opposite direction of achieving those goals.
That's a very good one.
Yeah, just to speak related to that too, I was actually reading it yesterday because I wanted to see what they have, and they said one of their main goals was to reduce single occupant vehicle trips and lower it by 10% by 2030, and you cannot do that if you cut service to Dart. There's also the environment ones. DFW is, I believe, someone said at the last meeting that they're in very well outside of the pollution levels, and so the national government's going to start fining us and cutting our highway funding. So you essentially anything you would put into cuts is just going to be paid into fines anyways. Might as well use it productively. I have a quick question for Enrique. For legislation, how would it be beneficial to try to target TxDOT's funding? Because I know the vast majority of their funding has to go towards highways currently, and that's a legislative thing. If they can make it more balanced, that could help everyone.
You just brought up something that's a really great idea to put on your agenda for about a year from now. It would be great to have a concerted effort to reroute money that's intended for roads to use instead for public transit, because the return on investment on a dollar to add one lane, you get, I don't know, 500 buses and you move a lot more people. And people at the very high up levels, meaning at the federal level, meaning Pete Buttigieg is really in favor of this. He supports that. But the money routes to the state and then comes to us, and there are too many economic interests from what I've heard from our own board members who are heading to Austin, that there's too much money going into road construction to make that flip that easy. So it'll be a long-term political thing. But that wasn't your question. Your question was,
Oh. Sorry, I don't know when the audio stopped, but. Oh, okay.
I think it's an ongoing process. If you choose to look at what do we do, what do we need to do this year to save Dart? And let's see, is there media here? Are we recorded or on the record?
It is being recorded.
All right. Well, then I'll. Yeah, right. So there are legislative initiatives that the DART board can propose to move forward. However, because the DART board is divided in terms of where we think DART should go, some of us think it should survive. Some of these initiatives, there are a couple that I have in mind, and I know another board member has in mind, will have to be independently as citizens, advanced by us, working with legislators in Austin or the city's legislative effort. They're probably not your audience for that. I mean, I think I would focus on the issue at hand at the moment. That's the budget.
Yeah. Real quick. Show of hands, who has given a public comment, let's say that to a dartboard before? Okay, so I think I'm more interested in, if you have never done it before, raise your hand. Okay, so if you've never given a public comment to the dartboard before, of those who have never, keep your hand up if you've never given any public comment to anyone. Okay. So, all right, you can put your hand down. So I got the general idea. So basically, if you've never done it before, either you've never done any public comment or you've never given specifically a dartboard, number one, we were talking about how much time you get. Typically, they say you have 3 minutes. If you're going to speak to the dartboard, I've noted they always give 3 minutes, but I recommend planning for 2, because you, in that moment, will stumble on your words. You might throw in an extra anecdote you weren't planning on saying. So very often, if you plan on 3 minutes, you don't get to finish your 3 minutes. But also, if you've never done before, find a friend or make a new friend and practice it with someone. Type out your speech online on like a Google Doc and then share it with the group me. That's a great way to get feedback. One thing I found very useful is do a rough draft or write it down and then copy paste it into ChatGPT and say rewrite to keep it under 2 minutes. Like that very works. Like never like use ChatGPT just like alone, like with that just raw. But that's a very good way if you're like stuck, you're like hanging over words. That's a very good way to keep it 2 minutes. But practice with each other. Plan for less time than you actually are allotted. So that gives you the most flexibility. And that's for the dartboard. If you've never done dartboard, all you have to do is just show up and then fill out a paper card. There is not a in-person sign up. I mean, there's not an online sign up for the dartboard. If you're going to city council, check. It's always different depending on the meeting. So if you're going to city council, you have to register online the day before at a maximum. Yeah.
I'm gonna publish it.
Oh,
yeah, I'm ready to. So actually, to speak at Dallas City Council, you do have to register beforehand. I would actually like everyone who plans on attending this meeting, either virtually or in person, go into the group me and say that you are. The reason why is because one, I want to just create like a group chat just for this event. So that way we can all coordinate which arguments we're going to use. And another, so I can push updates like, hey, you can now register to speak at the meeting. So for everyone who's attending to speak, I know it's a bad time, Wednesday morning. Say so. I also wanted to point out, if you don't feel like you're ready to speak on like, oh, I support DART because of this statistical reason, just as effective, if not more, personal stories. If you just tell them why DART is important to you and why you care about it, that's probably just as good as trying to bring up ridership statistics or whatever you want. Is it? I thought they did.
Not that late. Well, for public, okay.
I thought they did public comments, a few of them in the morning, and then they would do the rest after the meeting. But I've also heard that if a large group of people shows up, they will likely just front load it.
Yeah, I get to answer that. So here's the way it works. Technically, the rules say only 5 people are allowed to give public comment at the beginning of the meeting. The reason that this rule exists is because there's a certain like shock self-proclaimed comedian who like will abuse the system and to show up and just give a very not funny stand-up. So what happens is when you show up and it's clearly obvious, especially if everyone's wearing that's why I've been making a big deal about these buttons, right? If they look out in the audience and they can clearly see that there's a lot of people there to speak, like actual, and also if they see the backlog and people who registered, what they'll usually do is they'll waive the rules for that particular meeting, make a motion to waive the rules, and then they'll let everyone speak. That being said, in order to get that effect, they have to see that there's a line of people who are clearly there to comment, and so that's kind of what you can expect, because that's what happens whenever there's a housing coalition or this or that. When they see that there's a large number of people there clearly there to speak, then they'll waive the rules. But that's how it works.
So how do we do that? Do we just like all wear the same color shirt? Swear.
You could do that. I also like side note, after we adjourned the program of this, I brought my button machine so we can make more buttons. You can see he's wearing one now. I think that's something we can all take away from here, but then I'll let the group chat decide what to do for maybe same color. That's probably the most efficient thing to do.
Okay.
What time are we at? Yeah.
We have 10 minutes left. So we can, I know there's so many people who wanted to say more on Dallas City Council, but we probably should move on to DART. Yeah, so just last thing, say something in the group chat if you're going to go to Dallas City Council, and we'll get to dartboard.
Yeah, so there's a few ways to engage. What I recommend is sign up for our email sign up for the group me in the Discord, because we will post the events with like the logistical details, right? You might be wondering, oh, how the hell am I going to get there? Oh, excuse me. And that will all be taken care of, and we can coordinate. The Dallas group chat, in the main data group chat, the Dallas section, also great place to post your suggestions, your data, your stories, etc. So we can kind of engage offline, because this is a very inefficient way to do it, unfortunately. So if you have more to say, say it, or talk to us after the meeting or anytime on the group music and everything. So really appreciate you all for coming here. Sorry if we didn't get to you. Although if you have something, just a real good zinger about Dallas, hit me. You got one?
Well, this is more about the Dart board and the suburban communities. And that is that we're trying to reach the people that are difficult to reach in terms of these council members, and be looking for people that are really into the prestige of getting a mega event. You know, we just got through watching the Olympics, and everybody's looking at that and saying, oh God, that wouldn't, yeah, I'm going to get to that. Wouldn't that be so cool to get the Olympics in Dallas, something like that, you know? And, but of course, that's hard to do because of our transportation infrastructure. See, you mentioned the World Cup. Meadowlands got the final game, and if you've been to Meadowlands, New York, New Jersey, they've got wonderful public transportation. So we want to be competitive in getting these, you know, getting the next Super Bowl and that sort of thing. And if this is something that appeals to people, the prestige of getting that event, and also the revenue that comes from the hotel motel tax and the car rental tax, every time you get a mega event, this is something that you can use to appeal to them, that if we can have better public transportation that ties together in a logical way, especially if it connects directly to high-speed rail, which we're not proposing, that is something that could turn some of these people.
Yeah. We might not even get that today. But that's something we're kind of keeping an eye on, and we'll keep everyone posted. Okay, you two are going to be my last ones about Dallas. Gentlemen, I'll get you second notice. You in the yellow, since you haven't spoken yet.
Hi. One more thing I wanted to add with in regards to what you said about like going at city council meetings and sharing stories. One more thing I wanted to like think about is like Dartable events and like entertainment and leisure. I've used Dart on multiple occasions to get to like leisure events, go to restaurants, and meet up with friends. That's also really important, and like that's also like what you said, like weekend traffic. That is pretty huge, and like the idea of defunding Dart, that would cut service basically everywhere, and it would impact even like the people who have the choice of using Dart for these leisure opportunities. I think that's also a pretty important thing to address.
Yeah, I don't mind. My name is Sean, but I'm fine with either. Yeah. This isn't really very related to this. It's on rather the budget cuts. Huh? Oh, this isn't directly related to this. It's more of the budget cuts. I believe some city council members have said that Dart has some debt that they need to pay, but wouldn't budget cuts only put them into even more debt? Yeah, I did see the financial plans.
Okay, so this is we are done with Dallas City Council. Thank you. So let's move into the Dart board discussion. And I think we have two people who are on the citizens, or we have three people here, including Dave and Phyllis, for engaging with the Dart board. I might let them speak first, so that they can kind of speak to it. Dave, you want to take the mic?
Something that all of you need to think about when you make comments to the dartboard or the city council or any of the organizations that you go to, get your topic clearly in front. Get your support items in place. Do what Hexel said, practice what you did or what you're going to say at some point in time prior to going to the meeting. That way you'll be able to make sure you get all of the quality points and comments and your support information into the time frame that's limiting you to speak. Because when the dartboard sees that there's 50 people out there to speak, they're going to be tight about making sure that you're held to that 3-minute limit. So be prepared to get your points clearly in place and your support items clearly in place and squeeze it into that time frame of 3 minutes.
I appreciate it, Dave. Yeah, good call. So say what you support up front. I totally agree. Good one. Phyllis, you've got a mic?
Yes. Okay, since we're talking about August 27th, I want to bring to everybody's attention who is going to go to the board meeting, that there will be a separate item on there about the public hearing for the fare structure on that same evening. It's a separate item, like I said, that's not public comments, it's considered a public hearing. And my next thing is a question. I don't know, since we haven't talked about the board meeting yet, how are we going to decide who says what? Because I don't have this computerization to, yeah.
Right.
So, I don't want, I happen to be talking at the public hearing, but that's separate from these public comments.
Correct.
And I want everybody to be clear about that.
So
But, I'd like to say something about public comments, but I don't know how we could coordinate.
So I got you, Phyllis. Phyllis and I are neighbors, so we talk at least twice a week. So I will take your stuff and I'll kind of let you know what everyone else is talking about, and we'll coordinate in the next couple weeks.
Maybe I'll also suggest, because I'm also on the CAC, by the way, because there's a lot of people here from different parts of the Metroplex, let's take advantage of the fact that some of us are neighbors to each other. So maybe, for example, if Phyllis and Tyler and anyone else in Addison, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, it would be a whole lot to get like the entire Dart service area to come to an event. But it's very easy for all of you who live close to each other to have your, North Dallas or northern suburb practice session. So I just want to encourage you guys to think about what activities can you do as subgroups, because that's a lot more flexible and nimble, agile than only relying on things that are all hands.
All right. So, we have to. It is 5, but it's probably okay that we stay over. If no one's gonna care. Okay. I want to start thinking about what's the message we want to convey to the dartboard. So we did talk about opposing capping the operating budget last time, and we can probably continue to hammer that in. But is there anything else? Like, for example, I mentioned this way earlier in the meeting. There is no planned frequency or service improvements in next year's budget. Maybe we should say that's what we want. Even if DART can't make it happen, at least that tells the board they want better service, right? And who knows, maybe DART will look at this and be like, okay, we can fit in a frequency improvement to the 229 or something. So, yeah.
Well, I would remind that, especially with only a few minutes per person, and then if everyone's giving personal stories, or a lot of people are giving personal stories, there's not going to be a whole lot of room for a very big, nuanced message.
Yeah.
It is a good idea to kind of keep it limit it to 1 or 2 main points.
Yeah. Oh, Garrett.
Coming through, excuse me. Apologies.
I guess it's a question and a suggestion. Would it be useful to just kind of highlight to the board all all of the improvements that we've seen over the past couple of years with cleanliness, security. I think frequency has improved on some routes that I don't tend to take very often, but just to kind of say like, look, you guys have been doing a great job to bring this stuff up to par. There's still work to be done, but just kind of like reinforce that the investments that they've been making have been working and have been felt and are appreciated. Would that be useful?
Yeah, I think that there's this narrative that Dart's doing a bad job. I think they're doing a great job. I really do. So yeah, I think we do want to emphasize that. We can probably emphasize that in the Dallas one as well.
Yeah.
I'll copy that over before I send this out.
Yeah.
I think we can fit it in.
Hey,
I think
Connor?
if some of us can mention it.
Hey, Connor,
more.
I got 2 points here. So the stuff we're talking about for City of Dallas, we can also say at the dartboard, like to a large extent. So what we've kind of discussed, you can hammer that home. That's really good. And second, hey, Enrique, quick question. Or those who engage regularly, can I go to this dartboard meeting and say, hey, I see data on the internet that Paul Wageman takes lobbying money from Uber. Can I say that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait, okay.
Yeah.
This is one of those don't ask for permission.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Because look, I don't want to be liable for whatever I answer, but if it's public information, who's going to freedom of speech, right? So don't ask for permission.
I can just
on
lob that
thing.
in there. Cool.
Speaking on
at your
that-
own risk.
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously it's not illegal that Paul Wageman, the Plano rep, takes money from Uber. He's an Uber lobbyist. But it is questionable when the council members that appointed him say, "Hey, we should cut Dart and replace it with Uber." They said that. I forget. I don't know. Mark Shahan.
Shelby Williams has said
Shelby
on Reddit.
Williams, maybe both of them. But yeah. So like one of them is like, okay, maybe there's some bias there, but the other one's like, hey, we should cut this thing that we're in charge of for this thing we're getting paid for. It's a little questionable.
I will say I don't know if it's the most effective tactic. I don't think we're changing minds if we. So I would recommend against it.
So I'll just save it for like a letter to the editor, like just for me.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
got
for
it.
you. Yeah.
Tyler's letters to an editor has been published, by the way.
Yes, I've had one.
So
Curtis
not to
too.
derail us too much, but writing to the Dallas Morning News under their letters to the editor, look up their requirements for how that works. But it is an effective thing especially recently, Dallas News, they're not the most progressive on all issues, but they're very on the ball with their start funding.
Yeah, D Magazine as well. I mean, we have a lot of good media. KERA. Yeah. So if anyone's listening or will listen later, thank you.
Oh, yeah. So I think really what we're trying to hammer home on the dartboard, and I'll send this document out to those who don't have a computer. I'm sure someone else in the group, if anyone, will take care. We'll iron this out more, and I think for the dartboard, the main thing is maybe ask for better service in next year's budget. No revenue caps, no budget cuts, and just talk about how great Dart has been doing. You look like you really need to say something, Enrique. Okay. One more thing. If you don't know what to say, just say just say I agree with what they've been saying, or I like what everyone else is saying. My comment is the same. Just something like that, You can always just say, hey.
Yeah, like if you're for loss of work, you can literally go up there and say, "My name is Hexel. I'm with Data, and I'm against cuts." Then sit down. Weirdly enough, because everybody fills up their entire time, if you just have like a 15-second thing to say, that's also super impactful. So just throwing it out there that you don't have to overthink it.
So Connor, I want to take maybe a couple more from.
Yeah.
Then we can close this. So.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Chris. I'm in Kara's district. So
Bless your heart.
So just letting you know I'm here. My idea, if we could get all the stats on the website, so like we can quickly look. If I'm going to go to Kara or anybody else, say, hey, we could get it Addison Transit Center is at 95%. We can get all those stats on the website so we can quickly grab them.
Fact sheet or talking
Yeah.
points.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, or all out of all.
Yeah, I
the-
definitely want to like add more narratives or more arguments, more data onto our website so
Yeah.
people can quickly reference it.
And the other one is like the economic development. How much development is Trinity Mills Station developed? They're under construction right now. Is it
They are.
100?
Well, I'll just say I have a PDF from the CAC that has an update on every single TOD currently in progress. So if anyone wants that PDF, then hit me up.
Yeah,
I'll just share
that's
it.
that's what I want.
Okay, last one. What's your name? Sorry, I've seen you before, so.
He's Tammy Greenberg's husband.
Yeah, Tammy Greenberg's husband, just call me that. Ken Dublay. Something came up that really triggered something that was said earlier, and that is borrowing cost. Okay. Now there's two types of debt. There's what are called revenue bonds, which are like Omni Hotel, for example. You know, you build a hotel and you guarantee the bond by the revenue that's coming from the room rentals. And then there's what DART typically uses, which is a general obligation bond. Now, the interest rate that you pay on a bond is a factor of the financial strength of the borrower. And so the borrower gets a bond rating, and the bond rating determines the interest that's charged on the debt. And so what we're talking about here, cutting 25% of the revenue, that is going to tank DART's bond rating because DART will find it increasingly difficult to pay back any money that it borrows, and it's going to be able to borrow less money for projects, and it's going to be charged a higher rate of interest for the money that's borrowed. So not only are we bringing in less revenue, but we're increasing our operating cost. And so this is something that needs to be brought out.
Yes. A 25% cut to sales tax means way more than a 25% reduction in service is how I understand it. So, and for those reasons.
Yeah, I think they call it like a public service death spiral. So where you get more cuts, which means worse service, which means why are we funding this anyways, which means more cuts, etc. So I think with that, we have some engagement strategies for both Dallas and the DART board. If you can make it, awesome. So DART board is on the 27th at like what, 5:30? You want to show up so you can fill out a card?
At 6, but
yeah, 5:30. Get there, fill out a card. Right here at right across the street from Akron Station, right? It's at DART headquarters. So it's just you get off, you go right there. The 28th is the Dallas City Council at 9 a.m. Remember, we will share the details on the GroupMe and the Discord and probably post about it on social media so you can get the logistics sorted out there. Please share any more thoughts you have at info@ridewithdata.org? Yes.
Yeah.
info@ridewithdata.org. So you, sir, your TODs, please contact us at info@ridewithdata.org. We'll get with you. You as well. So just remember, you guys can continue to engage with us outside of this meeting. Thank you all for coming. We have a couple more agenda items to hit. Is there anything we really need to hit?
I don't think.
What's that? Oh yeah, officer elections. So that's a good one. My move is kind of do what Hexel did for the name, where we have people who are interested can kind of join a specific channel in the GroupMe and say, hey, my name's this. I'm interested in the VP, president, etc., or one of the chairs for the committees, and just kind of say, hey, here's what I've done in the past. Here's why I'd be good for this. And then you can kind of engage over the week. And then we can do kind of an online ranked choice vote where you guys can pick your people who you want. And then by the next meeting, we can get through the results of that and say, here's our officers. Thoughts? Yeah, Alex?
So will the ranked choice ballot be just like a bunch of names, which I know like barely anybody's names, or will we'll be able to like put like a blurb of like, you know, here's who I am, here's like my qualifications and stuff. Like how's that gonna work?
So the blurb would be like in the group meet, we can have a channel that just says election channel. And you, if you want to run, you put your blurb there. And so when somebody goes through and enters, hey, I want to talk, I'm ready to vote, you have that blurb as reference material for anybody who said what they wanted to say about their position. Does that help? Okay, cool.
So wait, so question about this. Is there going to be a nominations period where we put, where people self-nominate or nominate others, and then that nomination period ends, and then there's a ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have to fix the dates for nominations and voting.
To be honest, yeah, it just you are signing up for responsibilities. So you might, if you want to do it, you're probably going to get it. I think, because you're basically asking for work to do. Yeah. And I mean, if you're willing to even ask for it, you're most likely qualified, I would say. So,
but I will be nominating people. I'm just going to start throwing. I was like, hey, you'll be good for the chair.
Yeah, because we'll need to have like some list of positions to fill.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'll take care of that. I'll publish that detail. Phyllis, I'll call you about it. And so if anybody needs it offline or like wants to kind of run the paper ballot, talk to me like right after this, and I'll take your number and we can work that out. But any objections to that kind of idea or any suggestions for elections?
Just out of curiosity, for some positions, does it make sense to wait until like the next big, I guess, group meeting? I figure it's like you're saying, you're signing up for responsibilities. So if you're looking to be president or VP, that if you attend one meeting and then try to nominate, I'm sure informally it's probably not super hard to get a couple votes your way. But at least for something like that, I wonder if it makes sense to take an in-person vote.
That is another idea where we just do elections at the next.
So that's another idea where we just do elections at the next meeting in person, and maybe we can find a way to take online votes, and then the period between this, right after this, and the next meeting would be you can come out and say, hey, I'm interested in running in this. Here's my blurb, and then people who've been here kind of know, right? I mean, it's just like, hey, if you've been here, then you have a bit more credit. So I think that's another idea.
Yeah, to just add on to that, we could treat it as the next general meeting is the official election day, and then the online poll is open, just like any other election, like the early voting, right? Write-in ballots, people who can't physically make the next meeting, and so it would work just like any other election. There's the people who submit your votes prior, and then on the day, then if there's anyone who hasn't voted yet, they can make that decision. Then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
And then I have the spreadsheet, like macros already programmed for ranked choice voting, so like we could get the instant results that day.
So here's what we'll do. We're pretty busy with kind of this engagement. If you've signed up for the newsletter, etc., we'll probably send out a blast when the polls are open. But I think between some of us who have kind of been running some of the tech and some of the logistics, we can get that set up for everybody. If you're interested in running, you can contact us or just say it. Say it in the group. It's a free country, and we'll keep that in mind. We do need to roll this out kind of in pieces, and like I said, we're spread somewhat thin. So if anybody's like, oh, hey, I can be an election worker.
Anyone wants to run the Instagram?
Yeah,
please.
Yeah. You want to run the Instagram, Sean? No. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where we'll take it. Look out for more details on polling. If you're interested, start thinking about it. General positions we're going for: president, vice president, secretary at the top executive level. And then we have a few committees. I think there's about a half dozen looking for chairs. And if we have enough people interested, co-chairs. Otherwise, chairs will just appoint the co-chair. And so that would be president's kind of the face of the org, runs the meeting, etc. VP helps with that, and it takes the place. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're the
Pres VP. So basically what we're doing is Pres VP and then kind of being head contact or head escalation point. Secretary would take minutes at the meetings and kind of coordinate all the paperwork. The committee chairs would basically be presidents of their little committees and give reports. And so then the idea is committees will start meeting outside of this time. And you guys can write engagement strategies for the social media, for the policy, et cetera. And so that's where we want to spread that out so we can actually start doing things out of these 2 hours.
I can get the ball rolling. I nominate Tyler president.
Oh God. Oh God.
Let's get the ground running.
So yeah, we'll see about that. I'm moving to close this section now, unless anybody has any last minute questions.
Are we gonna close the meeting now?
Yeah, I think we can close the meeting too.
Yeah.
So thank you again for coming. I'm gonna stick around for a minute, figure out my train ride home. Thank you.
All right.